We usually picture the latest consumer app or a flashy AI chatbot. But the companies quietly pulling the levers of the global tech sector rarely make the evening news. We tend to measure tech success by looking at the highest revenues or market caps. But revenue is a lagging indicator. It tells you who won the last cycle, not who is preparing to win the next one. To see where the market is actually heading, we need a leading indicator. The Clarivate Top 100 Global Innovators list tracks the foundational intellectual property that companies are building right now. Look at the top 5 tech companies by market cap. Compare that to the Clarivate list on the right. Notice what happens when we bring the innovators into focus. You see Apple and Alphabet, but they sit right alongside 3M, Hitachi, TSMC, and Foxconn. Why do deep tech manufacturing and telecom companies regularly outrank highly visible software brands on innovation indexes? There is a significant difference between building a product to capture consumer spending today and securing the patents required to build the baseline infrastructure of tomorrow. Market survival over the next decade is defined by who controls the legal rights to the tools that every other company must build upon. Getting on the Clarivate list requires specific, measurable inputs. The critical metrics are raw patent volume and the rate of global filings across international markets. Executing this strategy requires a structural trade-off. These companies prioritize long-term relevance by funneling 10 to 15% of their annual revenue directly into pure research and development. This scorecard shows how different technology sectors map against the criteria required to build a true innovation moat. Earning these checkmarks means prioritizing future market stability over short-term dividend growth, resulting in a defensible legal position where everyone else is trying to catch up. We call this patent velocity. The speed at which a company files new, defensible patents creates a legal force field that locks out emerging competitors before they even get off the ground. In rapid growth sectors like AI and cybersecurity, this velocity is the single most reliable predictor of future dominance, long before global revenue numbers catch up. Here is a look at the Indian cybersecurity product landscape. In the investment and innovation section, notice the active intellectual property development, over 110 patents filed between 2024 and 2025. This early-stage IP velocity is the exact signal that precedes market capture. These intellectual property portfolios operate as an invisible wall. They protect future market share, turning the cash spent on R&D today into a structural barrier to entry tomorrow. Now look at the physical and chemical infrastructure builders on the top 100 list, companies like TSMC, AGC, and Foxconn. The precision and the sheer physical scale required at the foundational layer of modern technology is absolutely undeniable. By controlling this base physical layer, these manufacturers position themselves to capture value from the entire downstream technology market. No consumer software application, cloud platform, or advanced AI model can physically exist without this proprietary hardware running underneath it. But there is a vulnerability built into this strategy. Building and maintaining these physical moats requires intensive capital investment. That capital outlay carries high-stakes secondary risks. These physical operations are highly exposed to global supply chain shocks and geopolitical friction. The capital investment flows through a highly concentrated supply chain bottleneck, but once it passes through, it captures the entire downstream software ecosystem. By absorbing those physical risks and upfront costs, these infrastructure giants force the world's largest software companies into a state of permanent dependence. Moving up from the hardware, we find the hyperscalers and cloud leaders on the list, like AWS, Salesforce, and ServiceNow. These platforms don't build silicon. Instead, they innovate by embedding machine learning and AI deeply into the daily core workflows of their enterprise clients. They pair this workflow integration with expansive third-party API developer ecosystems. This web of APIs creates an immense amount of stickiness. It turns a standalone software product into a central operating system for a business. That gravitational pull makes the financial cost of switching to a competitor prohibitive for most enterprise clients. For the enterprise buyer, the positive trade-off is clear. They outsource their internal infrastructure headaches to gain instant scalability and top-tier security. The negative trade-off is a sacrifice of corporate agility. The buyer becomes locked into the vendor's ecosystem and their pricing models for years at a time. For these cloud innovators, the end goal is to become the invisible operating system of global commerce. They are trading upfront flexibility for absolute long-term customer retention. Achieving top 100 status is not a monolithic achievement. It is a reflection of distinctly different types of moats, whether physical, legal, or operational. A Fortune 500 list tells you who won yesterday. The Clarivate Top 100 tells you who owns the underlying tools that will control tomorrow. If you are an enterprise buyer, your primary goal is operational stability over bleeding-edge experimentation. We can map these lists to your specific risk tolerance and timelines. For maximum stability, buyers should look to giants like Microsoft Azure and AWS. They sit at the intersection of high revenue and high intellectual property. The trade-off here is financial. You will pay a premium to outsource your risk to these giants to ensure enterprise-grade compliance. Now, if you are a strategic investor, your goal is different. You use the Top 100 methodology as a leading indicator to find the next generation of titans. You want to target emerging innovators in cybersecurity and deep tech long before their revenue numbers reflect their actual market power. The strategic investor trade-off is time. It can take half a decade for IP and patent dominance to translate into mainstream revenue. Going forward, look past the sales volume. Dig into a company's patent velocity, their R&D spend, and the stickiness of their ecosystem. Whether you are an IT director buying a cloud ecosystem or an analyst buying stock, analyzing intellectual property is the only way to ensure you align with organizations that own the underlying tech, rather than those simply reselling it.